Hi, it's Lipstick Gal. I'm kind of excited because I can't remember the last time I bought a Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette. And I saw this one. I've been on the verge a handful of times, but I really want, if I'm going to be spending that $70 price point, I really want something that's going to pull me in. And I couldn't say no to this new I Need a Nude palette. I mean, look at this. Now it's kind of labeled as a neutral palette with a cool lean. And am I missing, like, there is some cool like silvers and taupes in here, but some of the matte shades, they don't all look completely cool. And maybe that's because these colors pair better with the metallic shine. But there was a video, and you may have seen it already, of Natasha and like her little short black nails. Like she takes two and swipes them down her arm, and I was like, ah, I had to know. I had to know. I know I'm a little late getting this out. First of all, I don't live close to a Sephora. If I lived close to Sephora, I would have gone and picked it up, and my local Ulta does not have a Natasha Denona carousel. So I couldn't get it any place locally, and I didn't want to drive more than an hour to get it. And I was like, I'll just wait for it to come in shipping. And when it arrived yesterday, I had such a busy day. I was gone all day. I was like, I'm gonna have to wait. All right, so I'm gonna start with kind of like this shade right here, this rosy shade called Vague. I'm gonna just pick it up with a little fluffy brush, and we're just gonna start plopping this. Now, I feel like most YouTubers use eyeshadow primer, and makeup artists do as well, but the truth is, I don't know that the rest of us, and I should lump myself in with the YouTubers, I know it's a helpful step, but I like to know what an eyeshadow formula does on its own. So I do not have anything on my eyelids right now. What I made sure to do was to take a cotton round with micellar water and make sure I didn't have any skincare on my eyelids, so that if these break up or they collect in the crease, that's because of just how they wear. Here's where I tell you, I don't have oily eyelids. I don't usually have products that if they sit well on the skin, settle into the crease. I think as I get older, I might see more of that. But right now, everything, like if it's a formula that works well, that is creaseless, I like to know that to be able to pass it on to you. So here I am, first time trying it on, no eyeshadow primer. I feel like even just the mattes in here, if you were to do an all matte look with this, I think that would be lovely. Now, the reason I haven't purchased Natasha Denona eyeshadow palettes, like a lot of them, is because the color stories. All right, remember when she was doing those giant palettes that were $225? They were like the purple palette, the green and brown palette. They were beautiful, but that was more for like a working makeup artist. And I was lusting after them, but I was like, too much money for too many shades I wouldn't use. But I did pick up when she was doing just the 5-pan palettes years ago. And they were the larger size pans. I loved those. I have one other midi palette, and that's the size this palette is here, that I got in a Beautylish Lucky Bag, but I don't use it. It's the Zendo palette. It's just that they're not my favorite shades. But when I'm thinking about it, like the Yucca palette, too yellow. What was the previous one? There was like the Retro Glam. What was the one that was kind of like sage greens and kind of paley pinks? Also, not colors that pull me in. Last year's kind of burgundy, was it the Retro palette? Oh, that was stunning. And I had been this close, I don't know how many times over the last 2 to 3 years, like right on the verge of buying the Glam palette, the one that's more silvery and cool toned. Love that. I haven't, and I feel like if I'm able to be fine without it, when I saw this one, I was like, I kind of need to know. So if I'm thinking about it, the last one that I bought myself was the Metropolis palette, and that was a long time ago. And I know she has developed new formulations since then, new finishes for eyeshadows, so I'm really excited. All right, here's where I'm gonna pick up a little bit of this shade here. This one's called Tender. I feel like these are blending really easily. And I'm gonna hit a little bit of this right out here. I feel like I might want let's use a different brush. Make it easy on ourselves. This shade here is called Mesh, and I'm gonna pick that up on it's a lighter version of the one I just put in the outer corner, and I'm gonna run this under the eye. I want a really soft, maybe that one and the one above, like these two here, a combo of that under the eye, because I want a little bit of shadow, but not too much. I feel like the older I get, if I put stuff that's too dark down there, it can make my eyes look a little stark. I would love to know what your relationship is, it's like we're going steady with Natasha Denona products. Like, Natasha Denona is definitely like the brand that always turns my head, always gets me interested, but I'm never quite willing to plunk down the cash. I don't know why that is. I did really like the I Need a Rouge lip stilo that I got earlier this year. But you know me in a red lipstick. I really, really like that. And I feel like although the I Need a Nude line, because there's lip liners, lipsticks, like it's a really beautiful line. I think is there a face palette as well? It makes sense that she would extend that range. And I think that this is a beautiful palette, but I think it's interesting that from the Metropolis palette to now, the only other Natasha, well, I have two. I have like one of the 5 pans, like that she was making more than a decade ago before she started making minis. I have one of those still. I don't know how old it is. And then I have the Metropolis palette. The Zendo palette, I don't feel like qualifies as a me purchase because it was in a mystery bag, but I really feel like it's interesting that I have so few eyeshadows from the brand, and I feel like that's how we really know Natasha as a brand. And a lot of it is just, you know, I don't wear a lot of the colors that she's coming out with, like the Love palette that was pinks and purples, and that's not for me. There's been a lot of other ones that were kind of like more sunset eyes, like purples and golds and oranges, not for me. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in the brand where it's beautiful, and if you have the makeup artist skill, the looks are incredible. But this, okay, slightly boring Betty that she is the sort of palette for me as an everyday makeup wearer who wants a little something more. And I think that has been an interesting change in the brand. Okay, so this was super easy, way more talking than blending, which I like. Now I'm at the point where I gotta start putting my fingers in some of these. Oh my goodness, these shades. Oh my goodness, they're so pretty. All right, I don't know. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with this shade here. This one's called Delilah, and I'm gonna kind of a little bit on the outside corner here towards the middle. This one has some duochrome in it. I feel like looking in the pan, there's like a kind of like a bluish shift, maybe some silver. I don't know if it's blue or silver, but it's definitely the cool leaning like shades in here are so pretty. I feel like there's a lot of dimension and depth to this. This shade here is called Mia. I think I'm gonna put, oh my goodness, maybe that was too much. I'll come back to that in a minute. See if I can spread some out over here. I like that I'm not getting any fallout with these, even though I chunked down like a giant bit right here. I feel like the sparkles are pretty, they're elegant. I don't feel like these guys are bringing out any unnecessary texture on my mature eyelid. This shade here is called Muse. I think what I'm gonna do is just put a little bit of this like right in the center between those other two shades. And it's gonna bring a really beautiful amount of light. These are so pretty. I regret nothing. I'm glad I held out. I think I would have enjoyed the Glam palette, like the bronze palette's too warm for me, but I'm glad I held out until there was just the right mix of like those mauve brown and taupey tones with these beautiful like sparkle shades. Oh, I'm in love. All right, I'm gonna take a brush and make sure it's a little bit dense and try and see if I feel like I got some of this shimmer too high. Kind of flick it away. Now I do have a little fallout, but that's because I'm kind of aggressively going in and trying to get some of the shine out of my crease. Maybe what I should do is go back with a light shade and just a matte shade. There we go, that's helping more to kind of tone down the sparkle in the crease. So the fallout was a me problem. I'm gonna see if I can get rid of it. I'm just gonna use a little bit of my ambient lighting powder on a little brush and see if I can just whisk it away. You know, this is easier to get rid of this sparkle than a Pat McGrath sparkle. I didn't feel like I had to be particularly careful with these. I was like rubbing my fingers in them and applying them that way. And the directions are if you want a like more foiled look to use your fingertips, or you could use like a dense brush like this to pick up product. This is an old MAC, what, 242. I know Ruffer makes one similar to this. It's the Ruffer 21 brush. I mean, they're almost identical. So if you're looking for something like this, since MAC doesn't make natural hair brushes anymore, the one from Ruffer is really, really great. I'm gonna use this brush here and I'm gonna pick up a little bit of this shade here called Mia. It's the one that I had kind of like in this inner corner. And I'm gonna really hit the inner corner, like specifically. If I go in there with a finger, I end up with like too much light in the inner corner and I want a little bit more careful placement. I love a little sparkle on the lower lash line. So I'm gonna take some of this shade here in Travertine on a little tiny brush and I'm just gonna hit kind of like right below my iris. All right, I'm gonna throw on some mascara, liner, finish up my face with lipstick blush, and I'll be right back and we'll do some swatches. I love the way this turned out. I don't always have like success with a new product the instant I put it on my face. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to figure it out. And I'll tell you, I had that experience with the Metropolis palette because there were those powder to cream formulas that I didn't understand how to use. And I always felt like, oh no, I ruined it. And I feel like these are super easy. Super easy. You don't have to be a makeup artist. You don't have to have any mad skills. And maybe that's why I haven't been buying Natasha Denona like eyeshadows, because I remember that feeling of like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. Oh, how do I make this work? Or, oh, keep blending, keep blending, keep blending. Like that panic that comes with like, oh, did I just ruin my whole face with makeup because I don't know what I'm doing? And I don't know. So this is a really good experience for me and probably is going to bring me back to the brand sooner than the last time I made a purchase. If you're curious about the rest of what's on my face, I will list it in the description box down below. There will be links. Those are affiliate links. And if you shop through those links, I get a small commission and it really does help to support my channel. So thank you for doing that. But let's swatch this beauty right now. I am so excited because there are some I haven't even stuck my finger in yet. This is the top row here. This is the shade Stone, Whisper, Ella, Vague, and Travertine. This is Delilah, Silhouette, Muse. There is one here, I promise. This one's called Fair, and this is Filigree. But do you see how these like catch the light? This one I was assuming was going to be a little bit darker. This is like your perfect bedroom eyes brown. The light from this one, oh my goodness. This one here is Muse. It's stunning. And I'm in love with this one, Whisper. Like just the metallics in here alone. This one's interesting because it has some duochrome to it. But it's a really pretty, beautiful, but more like sparkle sparkle and then more of a shine. Here's the last row. This is Wit, Sheen, Tender, Mesh, and Mia. Like, oh, like this shade right here is stunning. I really like this one as well, but if you're looking at them, I feel like the bottom row is a little bit lighter. And the shimmers in here are a little bit more, I don't know, this one's not very subtle, but I feel like this one's a little bit more subtle. And I feel like this one here and maybe this one here are the ones that she used and was like, and I was like, oh, drooling. They were just gorgeous. That is what pulled me into this. I really like this palette. And is this bad to tell you? I kind of didn't think I was gonna love it this much. Now I know this is just my first time applying it. I feel like I know Natasha's formulas because I do have some of the other palettes from her brand. So I expect this to wear well on me. And I think at this point, especially when we're dealing with metallics like this, my criteria changes. You know, as I'm nearing my 49th birthday, less than half a year to go, I have seen some changes in my under eyes, changes in the texture of my eyelids, how hydrated they are, how well things last. Am I more likely to crease because I'm getting more texture in my lids? Those sorts of things really come into play when I'm looking at how a product wears and sits. I'm not looking at it as, oh, it's pretty, let's get it. It's kind of like, it's pretty, but will it work for me because of how my face is maturing. And I don't mind getting older. I just want to look fabulous still. And there are a lot of people, and I don't know how many articles I've read, you know, that after a certain age, you should just wear matte shadows. Yeah, that's kind of boring. And so I want metallics, I want sparkle, I want shine, but I don't want it to make me look like I have lizard person skin on my lids, because there are some formulas that bring nothing but texture. And I feel, you know, this is my level of like, I'm looking at it in my mirror here, I'm sorry. I feel like a little crazy person. I feel like this is the level of shine that I want, but it's not like large pieces of chunky glitter. It looks elegant, it looks refined, but it's still not just your basic like soft satin shimmer eyeshadow. This is a little bit more. And if you are that person who wants that elegant but a little bit more, man, now I know why everybody is gaga for Natasha, but I just never found a color story in this size palette that made me have to have it until this. So if you are kind of like me, you know, you like those neutral, slightly cool tones, but I don't feel like it's so cool that it's giving kind of gray or, you know, smoky vibes. It definitely feels like it's wearable cool. It feels more like maybe a mushroomy taupe without being too dark. I'm sure you could take it there with different shades in here, but I don't feel like I'm wearing a like really, really cool eyeshadow look on my face today. I feel like it's very neutral and easy to wear. And I think that if you are not a eyeshadow blending pro, that's me, I'm not a pro, I feel like this is really forgiving. All the formulas in here are, and I am absolutely, like, I am so glad I picked this up. I'm glad I gave into the impulse. But I'll definitely get back to you and tell you, you know, am I still using it? Am I still loving it? Have I become obsessed? I'll check back with you. But right now, oh yes, if this is calling to you, I think it's as long as you think you'll use it regularly, because at the price, this is not like use it 4 times and be done. Like, you want to keep using this. So one of the other things that you probably know if you're a Natasha Denona fan, but if you're not, let me point it out to you. Since she's a working makeup artist, she gives you the ability to push something small like a pin back here, and all of these pans are held in here by a magnet into the palette. So it gives you the chance to reorganize them to your liking in here. Or if you have other midi-sized palettes that have pans this size, to swap some out. If you want to put a pop of color in here, if you want to take one of these like shiny shades and add it into something else, I think that's really thoughtful. As far as value goes, you have to ask yourself, are these shades I will wear? Because the reason I have never spent the 70, well, prices are going up, but the 60 whatever dollars for one of these midi-sized palettes was because they weren't the right color story for me. I was really close with one of the other ones, but I was like, I don't know. I want to spend this amount of money on something I'm gonna wear all the time. And I feel like this is it. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there who have a lot of Natasha Denona palettes and are like, did we need this? Who asked for this? Don't we have this in a million other places? And maybe, but for somebody who has the Zendo palette and the Metropolis palette and a small little 5-pan palette from I don't know how long ago, I don't want to say how long ago, this is exactly what I needed and is a good addition to my makeup collection. And this is gonna get a lot of use. Thank you so much for watching today. Let me know what your thoughts are. Did you pick it up? Have you been using it? Do you love it? Is Natasha Denona your favorite brand? And what's interesting to me is with such a positive first impression, I feel like I'm more likely to buy more from the brand because there's been a lot of it catches my attention and I get excited and then I go, maybe not. You know, I get cold feet, but I feel like this might be the beginning of me like falling down the Natasha Denona rabbit hole. Let me know how your relationship is going with Natasha and what you think is kind of like, yes, this. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Have a fantastic day.